Welcome back. Now, I've been joined by two guests in the house. I'll start with my left. I've been joined by Dr. Law Mefo. He is a social scientist and a policy analyst. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And to my right, I have Mr. Festus Ofome. He's a lawyer and an APC chieftain. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Let's start from the recent developments leading up to the inauguration. There's an inauguration set for May 29th, but there are some parties who still believe that they can perhaps change the outcome even in retrospect. And I'm talking about the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. I'd like your thoughts on the recent ruling rejecting live coverage. Do you think that has any significance?
Well, I would have been surprised if they accepted the live coverage. And I say so because of what I may call the mood of the country at the moment. You know, there is what we call strategic information management. They would want to control the environment, and information at this moment is quite critical. There is something that may erupt in the tribunal there. It will cause international embarrassment. And because of the nature of the trial, the presidential election this time around has been the most contentious, very unique in many respects, and the judges are not unaware of the implication of allowing, a free for all kind of engagement, especially the international community. And again, if you look at the grounds advanced by the Lord justices, they made it very clear that that wasn't part of the original petition. And they're bringing it in now, is something more like an afterthought. There is nothing in the rule or in the law that says that that forbids live coverage of a presidential election petition process. Nothing at all. And since it is not prohibited by law, taking it out, ruling against it is a matter of discretion. And like I said, I would have been surprised if they accepted to have it that way. And again, don't forget, the whole process has been tainted, meshed in controversies, and so on and so forth. So you don't really know the kind of evidence that the petitioners will throw out there. You just cannot tell, because of course you don't expect them to have fired everything they have in their arsenals at this point. That means many of these cards will be drawn as they go on. And the judges don't want that kind of surprise. They would want to take everything in their stride. That said, it does not also mean that information management is being suppressed, because the court is a public place and journalists are there and will naturally still bring out feed the public with what has transpired or been or transpiring in the tribunal, but it will not be real time. That will be the difference. For me, I don't see how the denial of real time would amount to denial of justice, because what I expect that will play out ultimately is the power of evidence. If you're able to, there are pieces of evidence that if you can adduce and prove, the judge's hands will be tied and you get the judgment as you would. In other words, the coverage is not what would make for justice or denial of it. In fact, is tactical not to allow live coverage. I would have loved it, but I think it's better they don't allow live coverage.
All right, that's fair enough. Let me come to you now, Mr. Afume. This is your party still. So What do you make of, the rhetoric that perhaps the APC has something it wants to hide, because the APC did, what's the word, decline or support the rejection. So what do you make of that?
Well, like my our friend here said, I think he has pointed it all very clearly. As it affects my party, I don't think we have anything to hide. First of all, you have to see the party as not as a political party this time around, but as a party to a petition who has to respond to it. And in responding to it, they have to follow the normal process, legally and otherwise, to make sure that they put up a sound and robust petition. We are confident with what will come out of the petition. We are confident of the judges that are handling the petitions. We are also confident because we have credible pieces of evidence to buttress and justify the fact that APC actually won the election free and square. So we don't have anything to be worried about at all. Just to clear, when he was saying that once you have good evidence to buttress your case, that the hands of the judges will be tied to, we don't even see it that way, because the judges are fair and unbiased empire who actually will look at the law, look at the merit of the petition based on the evidence that you have, right? So we went to election, we campaigned, we won the election. We are very confident and sure that Nigerians has given their mandate to APC, and the other political parties who felt that otherwise would have been the case, they've gone to the petition, they've gone to court, to tribunal. So it is the duty on us to go to the tribunal and defend the petition based on the credibility of the evidence that we have, knowing fully well that we have what it takes to sustain the victory that the people of Nigeria has given to us. So it has nothing to do with my party succumbing to the fact that this should be what should be done. Again, the court is a public place. There's what we call the orality and full day in court, which is the orality and the publicity of the process of court. It is not a show where you need to the real-time TV publication or television, right? It is an open place.
But this has been done in other climes. Don't you think Nigeria can also be one of those?
Well, yeah, even if Nigeria can also be one of those, the Nigeria, what the law is doing is following what has been laid out. They are not restricting or denying anybody from having the full view of what is happening in the petition. If you want to, the venue is there. You can go in there and actually see for yourself what is happening. But however, it can't take everybody because there is only a limited space that they have. So what people are asking for is to make it more public by televising it. But again, even if that is done, I don't see it as if that the one political party is trying to hide evidence or try to hide something. That is why they are not allowing the full publicity online television of the process. I think that even doing that will cause more of a distraction than to allow the tribunal to actually face the business of the day, which is to justify whether or not on the side, whether or not the petitioners have a valid case to upturn the victory that my party has gotten, or that my party has what it takes to sustain their victory and defend it in the court of law.
All right, I'll just lump two questions here together. You mentioned merit, so let's talk about that. We've seen cases where the case, there was expectations that the case would be judged based on merits or lack thereof, but we saw that some cases get struck out based on technicalities, and you don't even get to the meat of the matter. So I like your thoughts as to the phenomenon, and how you think it could play out here. And then secondly, taking account into the Osun State judgment, what do you foresee could be happening with the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal? Because I believe this is perhaps the first and the only case that involved the beavers, where now there is a Supreme Court judgment?
Yeah, the Supreme Court judgment on the beavers that came out recently in the case of Oshun, I think, like you rightly pointed out, was the very first. And provides a kind of insight into how the Nigerian courts or judiciary views the factor of beavers in the whole election process. You see, from experience, at least from 1999, I have come to see Nigerian presidential election petition as both political and legal. And by this I mean the judges at the tribunal, which of course the Court of Appeal, that serves as the court of first instance for a presidential election. And ultimately, the Supreme Court will have the final say. They look at the mood of the nation generally. They look at so many other things going beyond the law, to come away with a kind of judgment that will blend with some of these factors. If you cast your mind back to what happened in the case, the petition of the Kube president, Muhammad Buhari, against Yaradua in 2007. And of course, the petition of Atiku Abubakar, the same 2007. You will see very close shave. At the Court of Appeal, it was a split of 2-2, and the presiding judge decided to throw in his weight to break the tie, and favored that we should just let go and get it better next time. And in the Supreme Court, the same thing happened. It was still a split judgment, 3-3, and the presiding judge decided that we should let go. It wasn't because that election amounted to anything at all, but it's because of the political angle to it. In other words, if you take your bearing from these summation and submission, this perspective, one thing, it becomes an onus on the petitioners. You have to prove your case beyond all reasonable doubt. It is true that election matters are civil cases, but you still have to prove it beyond all reasonable doubt. What that means is that there should be no shade of doubt at all, and the presumption of compliance with the laws and everything is on the side of the winner, the presumed winner, and on the side of INEC. You can see the whole thing. Even INEC descended into the fray and is acting as part of the defense. Yes, is acting as part of the defense. Even INEC filed an objection to live coverage. So you can see that the INEC, that is supposed to be an umpire, has in practice become partisan. Why? Because the law does not, compel INEC to prove what he has done. You see where the problem is? If Nigerian, jurisprudence, is particularly the Electoral Act 2022, compels INEC to come to court and prove how Tinubu won, it would be a different ballgame altogether. But here, the tribunal presumes that INEC has done its job and done it well, and does not need to prove anything. And in trying to maintain its position that indeed the person they declared president-elect, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, indeed won, they join forces with Tinubu to prove his victory, thereby compromising the public perception of their role as that of an umpire. Summarily, so that my friend can come in. Summarily, what I'm saying is, it is not a Tinubu issue. It's not even an INEC issue. It's a problem of our law. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it has always been so since 1999. And that is why I keep blaming the opposition. If you want, you see, democracy is a marathon. It's work in progress. It's built by robust opposition. An opposition that can anticipate these pitfalls and insist that certain laws be brought in. For example, what stopped the PDP when they were in power from implementing the wise committee report in 2007, when Yaradua, the presumed winner of that election, repudiated an election that produced him as the president-elect and set up a committee. He did not implement the committee report. Let me mention one thing that has caused a major problem in the present consideration. That is that all election petitions must be dispensed with before you swear in the president-elect. They should have caused that into law. They didn't. So who do you blame? Is it Tinubu that is benefiting from it? That would be foolhardy. Because it has always been like that. It was like that with Obasanjo, was like that with Yaradua, was like that with Goodluck Jonathan, was like that with Buhari. So if it is like that with Tinubu, we have to live with it until that law is changed. A law remains a law, no matter how obnoxious, until it is set aside.
Right, that's fair enough. I'd like to get your response to that, and also the same question: how you think the Osun judgment can affect this election?
You see, all the political parties and their candidate that went into this election are playing on a level playing ground. We all went in being guided by the Electoral Act, being guided by the Constitution, being guided by the laid down principle of laws as it was and as it is already. So when I see people, petitioners, begin to complain, begin to feel that the existing laws, existing rules are going to work against them after they have lost the election, I begin to wonder, like, the two parties playing on different rules or different laws? It's the same law. Now, the principle of the law is clear and very, very unambiguous. That in civil matters, as it is in Nigerian laws, he who asserts has the burden of proof. You can't shift that burden. It is completely resting on the petitioner that asserts. So, in this case, INEC is not a petitioner. INEC is a respondent. In as much as INEC is the unbiased umpire that conducted the election, they have declared a winner based on the fact that the political party and the candidate have satisfied the requirement of the electoral law. And INEC said, having done what it is, what you need to do to stand, theirs is to declare you to stand thereof, which is what they have done. Now, the petitioner who feels aggrieved has gone to court. You cannot petition the winner of the election only without bringing INEC in, because INEC must remain a party to it. In this case, as it is, INEC cannot come out to begin to prove what they have said they have done rightly. The burden is first on you as a petitioner to make sure you reduce and break completely the cardinal points upon which INEC has stated what they have done. When you have cleared that, the burden shifts clearly on INEC to begin to see how they can repair or produce evidence to justify what they have done. The burden has not shifted. So it is not fair when we hear or see Nigerians expecting that INEC is aligning with the winning political party, which is the APC and our candidate here. No, INEC is not. INEC has well-trained lawyers, sound, well-trained legal department that also understand what the law provides. And they are doing what the law says that they should do. The problem we're having here is that majority of Nigerians, majority of our people feels that the fact that 99% of people are heading towards one direction makes that direction the right direction. No, it may not be. What is right is not about the majority of people can be doing what is wrong, and only 1% can be heading in the right direction. The fact that people think, people assume, people believe that in their constituency, in their ward, they feel that a particular candidate is more popular, and they assume that is universal. Assume a sweeping assumption that is everywhere, is the same thing everywhere. That is what is causing the problem that we have. Thinking that a particular candidate who is popular in one constituency or in his area, that it goes around in the whole nation. As a result of that, you feel that because he has won clearly and square in a particular area, that he has won all around. That is wrong. That is a perception that makes people think that there is something fishy in the petition, in the electoral, in the tribunal, or there is something not clear that makes it very, very crystal clear that All Progressive Party won the election. Now, regarding the tribunal, I don't think, and I wouldn't believe, though I'm a lawyer, I wouldn't think and I believe that the judges are not going to play by the rules or by what the law says. They are going to play by, like you said, the evidence that you have. The law is not a Father Christmas. And again, you said that there is a burden of proof. If you fail to prove your case, in this case, beyond the preponderance of evidence, the judges has nothing to do as an unbiased umpire but to wait on the scale. And what makes the scale to swing to either side is based on the evidence that you have. Now, the process of law is not really based, the process of tribunal, the process of court process is not only based on the credibility of the evidence that you have. Like you said, you call them technicalities. These both areas must come together to twine themselves together before you have a valid judgment. If you fail to do the other ones, which for instance, maybe there are processes that you need to file, valid processes, and you have time bound to file those processes. You did not file those processes. And when the time has elapsed, you are supposed to file a process for extension of time to allow the window for you to file, and you did not. Irrespective of the fact that those processes are actually true and what it is, the evidence that you are meant to call on those processes are right, the law cannot give it to you because you have failed to follow the process that the law has laid down for the admissibility of any other thing that you need to do. So when people don't do that, and you see courts or tribunal begin to give judgment on the ground that, well, because you have failed to do what you needed to do to stand, the foundation upon which you were supposed to stand is no longer there, is crumbled, and you cannot stand. And then we begin to see why. Why should judgment be based on technicalities and not on the substance of the law? You cannot move forward unless you lay the evidentiary foundation for the admissibility of an evidence.
Yeah, what about, I'm asking because you're a lawyer, so you know better.
Right.
Some people wonder, can't the judges use their discretion? Take, for instance, the case of Machina and Ahmed Lawan, the current Senate president. I can't remember the terminology, but I remember there's something about writ of summons and originating summons, and one was meant to be used and the other was. And people say, can't the judge say, you know what, you did this is not how you were meant to do this. Go back, do it the right way, and then proceed. Is that something that is feasible?
The judges are not allowed in our judicial system to step into the arena. That is the first as it is. Now, the rules are there, and it is meant for you to study the rules and follow the rules of courts.
So this was just a case of incompetence. Is that
well, if you might look at it that way, a case of incompetence, or maybe a case of should I say negligence again, which can come into it. I don't want to think that a lawyer who knows that a matter is supposed to originate by originating someone or writ of someone, and then you decide to swap them, or rather fail to use the right processes that is meant to. Now, like I said originally, what that means is that by following the wrong process, what you have done is that you have even barred the court itself from looking at your process, because it's not properly presented before the court. And if it's not properly presented in the court, there's nothing they can do. Using the hands of the court, in this case, I'm using court, I don't want to use the judge. The hands of the court are tied. Because you've not given the court what it takes to even get started.
All right, that's interesting enough. Dr. Law, you mentioned something about opposition, a strong opposition. So let's quickly delve into that matter. At the moment, the APC is still in power and is poised to continue. We have an opposition that emerged to some level of prominence this election cycle, speaking about the Labour Party. Now they have been, they are rife with issues of leadership tussles and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of accusation actually on your party that your party is behind that and, you know, trying to scuttle the party from within. I'd like to get your thoughts on that. Interestingly, even the PDP currently has an acting national chairman. The Labour Party, who came third, has similar court issues left and right. So one might wonder, what do you think is responsible for this, and what do you think it means for the next 4 years if the opposition seems to be a little bit in disarray?
Yeah, initially I made mention of one thing. I said that democracy is work in progress, and it is actually constructed, erected by a very robust opposition. Opposition in Nigeria have not done 3 things. One, they haven't actually been able to articulate and collectivize their interests, what you call strategic interests, and then come together and pursue it, right, with singleness of purpose, without unnecessary distractions, or where individual inordinate pursuit, of power overrides the general interest of the opposition and even that of the political parties. We saw it in the PDP. If a PDP at a point became, a faction opposition in one. Because if you look at it, if you look at the fact that Labour was nowhere until P2B moved into the camp, you would see that whatever Labour eventually became is as a result of P2B factor and those who believe in him. For example, the incursion made into the political arena by the obedience. Now, obedience may not be exactly the same thing as P2B, but they have now become like Siamese twins, inseparable twosome. The implication of that is that P2B, coming from PDP, actually took a part of PDP with him, making Labour a faction of the PDP. And Wike and the 5G governors became a faction of the PDP. And the mainstream PDP, led by Ayu and Atiku Abubakar, 3 factions fighting, each other. And of course, it has always been an axiom that a house divided against itself cannot stand. Even when they started fighting to recover the mandate, I had recommended that the opposition must work together. Somehow, the tribunal has, helped them in doing that, because the tribunal has actually consolidated their petitions. That's what I expected they would have done all along, but they didn't. Now, if you want to know the way moving forward in terms of opposition role in constructing and erecting democracy in our own sphere here, the fact remains that we haven't quite started, right? And we haven't learned anything. PDP in the last 8 years has not acted coherently as an opposition. We couldn't really look at one person in PDP and say that this is the opposition figure. That didn't happen. And I think we never really returned to the fray until months to the election. That is not opposition. Now, you now have Labour. Labour is fighting an internal war also. War of contradiction and so on and so forth. One is that what the obedience and P2B stand for may not be precisely what Labour itself stands for. That is a major contradiction. And of course, people accuse the APC of causing the problem in the Labour. Of course, APC is the ruling party and would want to retain power. Whatever they are doing in Labour to destabilize it is political. Assuming they are the ones doing it, and I will be surprised if they are not taking along that direction. It is for you to put your house in order. Put up what you call coherent, opposition, where you can see, like I said, I mentioned 3 factors that characterize proper opposition in any democracy, especially presidential democracy. What is happening in Labour, if it endures, right? If it endures, for example, Lamidi Apapa succeeds in proving that he is the authentic chairman, you can be sure that there will be very serious implosion in Labour. And if it does, what I foresee would happen is that there will be obedience, and the Obi side of it may be forced to exit. And of course, remember that Obi used Labour as a platform, as a stopgap. And it is a misnomer. It is not only a misnomer, it's actually miscalculation and misrepresentation of the actual things as the actual position of things as they stand. If you see the Labour and obedience as one and the same, they are not. So they need to do a lot to mesh the two groups together before they can truly become, a single political bloc. Otherwise, that division that is coming even from the point of entry of Obi will still have to culminate in a eventual implosion and division that will lead to the exit of one wing, either forming a fresh political party or emptying into yet another political party. For me, opposition has not done well. That's just where I stand on this. Opposition has not done well. And moving forward, they need to go back to the drawing board. If the ruling party itself has equally very serious work to do, they have to, assuming Tinubu survives in the tribunal, because it's not cast in stone. I understand the optimism of my brother here. But I know that deep down he knows that there could be a problem. You understand what I'm saying? The fact that people are in the tribunal it really means that anything can happen if you have strong enough evidence to prove your own side of the case. Finally, I also think that moving forward, opposition really has to go back and understand what they didn't do right. Let me give you an example of what I mean. The Electoral Act, if you read the Electoral Act, with benefit of hindsight, you see that there are many loopholes that were not really covered. I read the report of a BBC on the presidential election in Rivers State. BBC, it's not even a Nigerian media. And they proved why and how Labour won, and it was somehow read it or something else, to the point that even a fictitious, non-existent personalities were brought in to announce the results. This is a BBC report. I have not seen any official response to what they have said. So if you have such evidence and it is really widespread, a lot can happen. Now, how did that happen? It could have been prevented. If the Electoral Act envisaged it, and the person to envisage it is the opposition. For example, if you check what section 64 subsection 4, even 65, going up to section 68, but particularly section 64 subsection 4 says that a collation officer, a returning officer shall, announce result subject to, verification and confirmation of results uploaded from polling units. That provision, even though it appears express and robust enough, it did not provide any consequences. For example, where the electoral officer fails to do so, what happens? What should happen? So opposition need to go back to these provisions that were exploited by those who, brought us to where we are. You see, one thing I keep saying, politicians all over the world, they want to win elections. Incumbent governments want to retain power. That is how it has always been. So it is the duty of opposition to envisage, use hindsight and go for amendments of these laws, provide consequences. That if you don't do this, this will happen. And that's the simple definition of crime. If an action is not a crime unless there is consequence.
Let me help you. Let me come in here. You see, this issue of the opposition, I think we should also remember that our political party, APC, was one time body of opposition parties in Nigeria before 2015 election. You see, so before then, the smaller political parties, the ADs and the CPP, they have been trying, contesting election and all, but until 2014-15, when they came together as All Progressive Congress, they decided to actually go back to the drawing board, analyze, evaluate, and understand what needs to be done. And what did they do? Which PDP has failed, and other positions currently are not doing. The APC decided to base their campaign on issue base. The issues were being sold to Nigerians, and on the platter of table of justice, or what is clear, Nigerians could actually see the message that the APC were sending. And what happened? Nigerians voted overwhelmingly for the APC, and we defeated the People's Democratic Party. Now, rather than the People's Democratic Party as an opposition, as it is currently, to dwell on issues, they are busy hitting on issues that will only last a short time in the minds of Nigerians. For instance, the party dwells so much on issues of the president not being a Nigerian, the president being from Chad, Buhari being Jubril, and all that. It played out. They were dealing with the issue of, for instance, the rise in dollars, without actually looking and wanting Nigerians to understand what are the indices, why are we experiencing the weakness in Naira and the rise in dollars. These are the things that APC looked at then. They were hitting issues, and there is no way you can address issues without winning the minds of the electorate. So the fact that the PDP could not win in this election and will remain in opposition is because they are not doing the right thing. They are not campaigning on the issues that Nigerians need to know that will transform the country from where we are today to where we intend to be. And once that is done, you will begin to see a credible electorate beginning to come up to say, yes, you know what, this is what we need to do. And until that is done, you can't come up and be crying foul only on the basis of what you envisage or what you think that was going to happen.
Okay, so in this election cycle, do you believe your party was more issue-based than others?
Of course, we're more issue-based than others.
The candidate himself, when he had the opportunity to talk, I mean, he did take, moments to, throw shots at the other candidates, and I don't believe they ever reciprocated.
You see, let me tell you, campaign that will lead a political party to win election, the activities that will enable a political party and their candidate to win election is not embedded in the 6 months marathon campaign. It is a process that starts from the end of the previous election. And from the end of the 2019 election, APC knew that they need to continue with that rocket speed to make sure that we maintain the tempo to remain in power. That was what happened. So the 6 months campaign is only, to me, a constitutional requirement that there should be a campaign and where Nigerians or the electorates will be educated or not. But before then, there are decided voters who have made up their mind before those campaigns based on the things, the activities, antecedents that they have seen from the government in power. Majority of them voted based on that, and not on the current ceremony that follows in the campaign period. So my party actually, no, well, I'm not here to defend my party, but I'm telling you as a party man that we did what was right, and the matter is in the tribunal. Like he said, it can go anyways. That is why we in the APC are taking the tribunal seriously, defending our victory, and we are sure that by the end of the day, the victory will actually be justified by the tribunal.
All right, so that we move on. But before we move on, if you can just very quickly answer the question. As a party man, is your party behind the issues we are seeing in the opposition?
Absolutely no. I mean, like, when I see people saying that the APC is sponsoring, I mean, like, why would APC be sponsoring the issues that are happening in Labour Party? There's none. Let me tell you one thing that you don't know in politics. No matter how a political party, like he rightly said, it is the injection of Obi into the Labour Party that sold Labour Party. And now, there are the obedience, and there are members of Labour Party, Party members. The obedience are different kind of people who follows the ideology, the political philosophy, political dream of their candidate, Peter Obi. There are the Labour Party members who are core party men and things that they own that political party. So the issues you are seeing is actually an internal issues that erupts in every political party where all the T's and I's have not been dotted and crossed, leading to what happened. Labour Party did not take their time to understand and marry the embedded political issues, party issues that will erupt. So what you are seeing are issues that will come up, definitely, whether or not Labour Party had even won the election, they will be faced with a bigger political party issues than the governance of the day. Now, a friend of mine from the US sent me something and said, Apapa was caught. Finally, they caught him. He was sponsored by the APC to go to tribunal and withdraw Obi's case. I looked at him and like, hello, what are we talking about? There are some things that when you hear, you begin to, people like us, we don't just get ourselves worried. How can the chairman of a political party, whether he's a substantive chairman, go to the tribunal and withdraw a petition of a candidate that ran an election? It is not possible. For a petition to be withdrawn, it must be done by the petitioner. And in this case, who is the petitioner? It's Peter Obi. So for Peter Obi to withdraw, for that matter to be withdrawn, it must be done by Peter Obi through his lawyers. And the lawyers cannot even come to court, the tribunal, and orally said, this is what we are doing, we are withdrawing. It must be filed in a process. And the process that is filed must be served to the respondent. So when I heard people saying he was caught, he came to court so that he will withdraw the matter, like I look at it, I'm like, come on. I mean, we should be able to, like Abraham Lincoln said in his letter to his son's teacher, he said, teach my son to listen to all advice, but also teacher, but he's such a little precious child to me, teach him that for everything he has heard, he must also filter them on the screen of truth and take out the good ones. We Nigerians, and especially the obedience as it applies to this electoral petition, should actually look at everything, pick out the ones on the screen of truth and apply it, and the ones that are baseless, that are just going to be mere rumor that will make it look as if we are not serious people, should be thrown into the garbage and allow the right process to go on, so that we can, at the end of the day, build a formidable, strong Nigerian. That will be good for all of us.
All right. I'll just throw one question to you so we can get back to Dr. Law.
Yeah.
And then we move over to quickly National Assembly and legislative politics. Let's talk about the inauguration proper. Now, there have been some APC members or supporters of the current government who have used certain language that people are saying, is this really inclusive when they say if you have no business, you should not be around the Eagle Square on the inauguration. People say, you know, be careful, don't go there, you know, and people are saying that the way politics works, you know, it's a game of numbers. It means the majority is on your side, and that ideally in other countries where a candidate emerges, it is seen with, you know, happiness and celebration, that people want to celebrate their new president. You know, it's not something you can hold them back from. So do you feel in any way this, the language being used is a bit exclusive and, you know, another accommodation of people who perhaps just want to celebrate their new president? And, you know, to put side by side with that, how do you think, you know, the beginning of his administration, how do you perceive it should be based on the expectations of Nigerians now? There are a lot of issues on ground, debt profile, insecurity, and so on. How should he hit the ground running? So just, you know. Well,
let's quickly clear that issue of people thinking that the language, if you have no business, do not come to Eagle Square. And, I think, to me, I don't see anything wrong with that. You know, maybe avenues like this will help people or to understand it more when we debate about it or throw more light on it. Because what is your business there? The business of going to Eagle Square differs. It is not unique. It is not a how will I put it, like a general business for everybody. What the media man wants to go there to do is different from what a political analyst wants to go there to do. So everybody actually should have a business of going to the Eagle Square. Like you said, if they want to go and celebrate their president, by all means, why not? But what we are talking about is that if your business of going there becomes negative, if your business of going there is to cause problem that will not favor the activities of the day, if your business of going there is to unleash or to unleash crime, is to unleash pains to Nigerians, or try to distort what is meant to be happening on that day, then it's a negative business.
But has this ever been an emphasis in previous, you know, inaugurations?
Well, even if it has not been an emphasis, like my brother here has been saying, that you see that the country, what is happening now, you know, everywhere is tense, and when issues, places like that are tense, human beings, Shakespeare says that the man is a product of his environment. If your environment is tense and all that, you can make policies to make sure that you will douse those things and put things in check so that it does not erupt. You and I will understand that this is the first time that the number of people, groups have been calling on Nigerians to say that the president that has been duly elected, declared, should not be sworn in. When a body that is saddled with the responsibility that derives their power from the Constitution has done their constitutional duty to conduct election and declare the winner. You are now calling on another body who also derives their power from the Constitution not to swear in the president that has been declared winner, when that winning has not been upturned in any way by the competent process. In election, it has phases. There is campaign, there is the election proper, and when you have won the election, there is a tribunal part of it, which is what we are. But that does not, or should not in any way, stop a process that is ongoing. So, because of this calls from several people who feel that their candidate did not emerge, who feel that one or two things were not done the way they think it should be done, and are calling that the election, the president that has won, should not be sworn in. We have not seen it before, and you don't know what people like this can do. So, to those people who do not want to wait for the process to complete itself, for the tribunal to give this judgment, and for the Supreme Court to actually validate the judgment of the tribunal, for those people who do not want to wait until that period, those are the ones that are saying the business of the day that you have, which is the business to come and distort what was meant to happen, what is going to be happen, we don't need that business there. But you are not meant to come there.
But the president, when he lost the election, recall he made statements about the blood of the baboon and all that.
Which of the president?
President Muhammadu Buhari, when he lost the election, that was the candidate himself speaking. These are just, I don't believe any Labour Party or PDP or has actually said these things. But so that we don't belabor the issue and we can get Dr. Law back in, the issue of expectations, 100 days in office, how do we get the ball rolling? How do we hit the ground?
Or obviously, and without my own words, I think that this coming government will be the first time Nigerians will actually see, Nigerians will not actually wait to hear what has happened in the 100 days, within 100 days in office. Nigerians will see that by the 100 days in office, Nigerians will begin to see the current transformation that we don't need to start mentioning here. From all sectors, we came in with the renewed hope. And in 100 days, we're going to start setting the indices. We're going to start setting the ball rolling for Nigerians to see that this country, for once, will be riding on the right directions. There are going to be a lot of foundations being sunk under the river, under the sea, that when it comes up, will actually hold both the political, economy, and all other structures of this country within the next 100 days. We have confidence in the person of Bola Ahmed Asiwaju and the people that are surrounding him. He's a human capacity builder. He's an infrastructurer. He's a developer. He understands the right time to what needs to be done at each time to kickstart an economy. Our economy will not be an exception this time.
That's fair enough. Let's hear from you now, Dr. Law, particularly on projections on how the government can, expertly handle the issues on ground. It's an APC to APC government, but still the incoming government is not meeting perhaps too rosy a situation, particularly with the issue of subsidy, which the budget was supposed to end for it in June, which is the first month of the new presidency. So what do you envision and how do you think it should actually be?
Well, for me, limiting my gauge to 1999 to date, from all perspectives, Buhari administration failed woefully. He talked about 3 pillars in 2015. The 3 pillars as he identified them by himself. One was fight against corruption. Corruption has grown worse under his watch. That to me is a very glaring failure. He talked about fight against insecurity. By the time Buhari came in, the problem we were saddled with was, should I say, we were worried, saddled with the problem of Boko Haram terrorism. But by today, we have added bandits and banditry that have actually blossomed, the metamorphosed into full-blown terrorist organization as well, making it 2. Headsmen, I don't want to say Fulani headsmen. Headsmen never had this field day. Killing at will. Up till yesterday, dozens of people were buried in Plateau, in mass grave. Then you talk about the economy. Inflation today, hovers between 21 and 23%. Unemployment has hit beyond 33%. As at close of the year of this 2022, Nigeria had emerged as the world's poverty capital. Up to 133 million of Nigerians living in multi-dimensional poverty. Statistics, peer-reviewed, many of them issued by Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. It doesn't stop there. I can go on and on and on. However, Buhari managed to score, 1 or 2 points here and there. I'll give him a pass when it comes to infrastructure. I think he did well in infrastructure. Second Niger Bridge, it was a subject of politics of the PDP. Obasanjo, Yaradua, Jonathan, politics. But it's almost completed. That's a plus. There are 3 key bridges. One in Ekong, one in Jeba, apart from the second Niger Bridge that I've talked about. And there are some key federal highways also, and railways, that he brought into the fray. I also think that Buhari made history when he started the actual devolution of powers. Because few weeks ago, he signed into law, the devolution, the first tranche, of devolution of powers, moving railway from exclusive to federal government, to concurrent. He moved the electricity power from exclusive to concurrent. There are 2 other key, devolutions that he brought to. So these are some things he has done, and of course, again, in the area of economy, he was able to, because if you look at our external earnings, oil is no longer the major foreign exchange earner for Nigeria. Many do not know this. Non-oil sectors are now contributing more. It happened under his time. That's a credit. But see, Nigeria has never been more divided. Do you understand that? Nigeria has never been as divided as this. Corruption has never been as bad as this. Disunity, insecurity. Do you know that a place like Southeast used to be the safest region in Nigeria? Today, Southeast is home to no government. All manner of bestial killings going on there. And it is repeated across the country. It's not just a Southeast thing. So, the point is, if you want to set an agenda for Ahmed Bola Tinubu, whether he stays or not, he will be there for at least 4 to 6 months before the Supreme Court will be done with the matter. 6 months is a lot. It's a long time. Murtala was there for only 6 months. Ironsi was there for only 6 months. So, Tinubu, even if he's going to be there for only 6 months, perhaps even less, he is on the threshold of history. That history is to reset the country. Start with the issue of unity. Bring the country back from the precipice where Buhari has taken us. Buhari, if you go to a place like Benue, where killings have continued up to 2 days ago, all he would say is Autumn. Autumn is a governor, and no agency of the security is under the governor of Nigeria. So whatever is happening in terms of insecurity in Benue State, Plateau, anywhere in the country, is essentially the responsibility of the Federal Republic of Nigeria until you move police and policing away from exclusive lists to concurrent lists and bring in issues like community policing. Until you do that, you take responsibility. But what did we get from the president when he went to a place like Plateau? Benue particularly. The president said his sole response to the killings is that people should learn to live together. An official of Mietiala made a statement in Plateau after a reprisal killing, taking responsibility on behalf of his group for the killing. Has the man been questioned till today? Is there? The video is there. I'll send it to you if you don't have it. So if Tinubu can, yes, I admit Tinubu is a project-minded person. He's a fair-minded person. I don't have any problem with Tinubu. Do you understand what I'm saying? But I would want him to win free and fair and square. Because you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. if he didn't really win this election, the tribunal should be courageous enough to upturn it. If he won, we will all rally around him and help him to succeed. So when you started talking about 100 days in office and all that, do you know that as we speak now, under the watch and grossing competence of President Muhammad Buhari, Nigerian external debt servicing stands now at 93%. Do you know what that means? That 93% of everything Nigeria earns will go to debt servicing, leaving a window of only 7% for everything else. I don't envy Tinubu, whether he stays or goes after 6 months. I don't envy him. You know why? Because the first task will be to reschedule these debts. Beg our creditors to wait. Please, give me breathing space. Otherwise, he will shut down his government because there will be no money. If you can't pay, if you cannot pay, we're not talking about debt repayment. We are talking about debt servicing, interest. Nigerians need to understand the difference. We can't. Now, we have a relief seriously coming from a private individual. Dangote, private initiative. Even though he took some loan from the CBN and stuff. But loan, money does not speak to itself. Somebody activated and built the biggest refinery in Africa. A single individual. But President Muhammad Buhari couldn't repair one refinery. He ate his. And my friend here, looking at the cameras here, is saying that APC is the best thing that has happened. To who? I've just given you instances of where we are. Nigeria is in a hole. And Tinubu needs grace of God, apart from acumen and competence, to pull the country. Like I said, where to start, pull us back from the precipice. First and foremost, reunite the country, bring us back to have faith in Nigeria once more. We have lost faith under Buhari. In fact, in summary, I have given him credit in some areas in infrastructure. I must recognize goodness and greatness where I see it. He did well in infrastructure, fairly well, up to 50%, perhaps more. But if you remove infrastructure, the only two things that improved under Buhari, number one, his health. His health phenomenally improved. He couldn't even put a medical facility here in Nigeria. He preferred to stay 250 days in UK hospitals. Go and check the records. 250 days, unprecedented. It has never happened in Nigeria. The president stayed outside in the hospital bed for 250 days. Not his world tours. We're not talking about world tours. We are talking about medical treatment trips of the president. 250 days. The records are there. Now, I saw on TV days ago a medical facility was opened by him about less than 2 weeks ago. I think it's good, but I believe he should have come in his first term so that he can use it. If he had used it, other presidents would be confident to use it. He didn't use it. So for me, if you have a government coming in to meet this level of rot, decay, there is certainly a problem. And that's why I'm saying, let the tribunal do a good work, right? So that if Tinubu is affirmed as the winner of this election, whether it is on technicality or on point of law, I don't care anymore. But let that issue be foreclosed. Then we will rally round whoever, Tinubu or whoever else, to see what can be done to salvage Nigeria. Right. The country has been battered beyond recognition, but I wouldn't say beyond repair. Nigeria is still salvageable. We are a very resilient people, and I believe that we can rally around and rescue our country. Buhari didn't do well.
All right, we've run out of time now, so we'll just have to take the final issue now I'm sure you would have loved to respond, but let's just quickly move on to the issue of National Assembly politics.
And I'd really love to respond.
If you can take just 2 minutes to do that, then we move to National Assembly politics and what your perception is about the 10th Assembly that is coming in, and the historical nature of the fact that for the first time, I believe, I don't know if you can correct me, that not a name or names were picked. The APC said Senator Godswill Akpabio. They didn't just say it is for the South. They mentioned names and they said these are the people. I don't believe it has happened before. And if you were here while I was reading my updates about people warning against imposition, so I'd like to get your thoughts for the 10th Assembly moving forward. But if you want to respond to that, you can just bundle the two.
In response to that, actually, maybe I've decided to douse my response, but to make an appeal to Nigerians that it is fine and clear that we are all wrapping up now with the President Muhammadu Buhari administration, and not everybody will appreciate or like what he has done, and the performance of the administration is neither here nor there. Like you said, in some areas he has done very well, and again, ambitions and desires differ. It could be that your desire is actually to see infrastructure go higher in this country. It's your desire to see education sectors being solidified, and those areas might have been melt, and at that point you will see yourself as somebody who sees the government as a satisfied government. Are there areas that can be where we can do better, where we can improve on seriously? The answer is yes. And if you ask me, it is not about the fact that an individual is in court, is in tribunal, that will determine that, actually. For whoever that wins the election, if you say that the country is in a mess and there's a lot of job to be done, it applies to whoever that wins the election, whether Atiku or Obi or Tinubu. So in this case, there is a lot of job. There's a huge expectation from Nigerians, from whoever that's going to become our president. And in this case, we already know who is going to be the president. And that is Bola Ahmed Tinubu. As it is, he's the president. And until otherwise, as of now, we should give him the respect as the president-elect. It is not my decision or my responsibility on how he was elected.
That's correct.
We should give him that. And after May 29, we are going to give him the full respect as the president of Nigeria and expect that he should do and meet the expectation of Nigerians who will support him. Until, at whatever time, it takes the tribunal to give their judgment. Whatever happens after that, we will take it and move on. The whole idea is to see that we build a formidable Nigeria. So I call on Nigerians to give massive support to what the law is already now has stated, because we are all law-abiding people. Because if you talk about the fall of insecurity and all, those that are doing those things are because they are not law-abiding. So if we are law-abiding, and law-abiding should not only apply to one sector. Security of a nation is all interwoven. Educational security, health security, political security, economic security, social security, welfare security, policing security. All this security must be together to have a robust government. When one drops, it affects the other. So we are believing, we have the hope that Tinubu's led APC administration will meet the entire security structure of Nigeria so that you have a credible government.
All right, so please, if you can round off with the National Assembly.
On the issue of the National Assembly, yes, that my political party came up with what they have done. You see, the fact that we are seeing things happen for the very first time, the fact that we are seeing things being texted for the very first time, does not actually make it wrong. What makes it wrong or bad is the fact that it is an overzealousness or an excess of the confines of the powers of the political party. The political party is actually the winner of the elections. They run the party. That is why you hear the language that party is supreme. A political party must coordinate themselves properly in a way not only because they have won an election, in a way and manner that will sustain them, so that they don't degenerate, just like my brother here said, in the 3 dimensions of PDP before the election. So a political party must look at all this holistically to see how they can sustain the foundations that is carrying them. And in doing so, they have all the liberties, all the right to look at the issue of sharing of powers, balancing of those powers within and across the geographical region of Nigeria. In other words, we all agree to the federal character ideology sometimes, because we are a people that are made up of different vast culture and different backgrounds, and we think that to move this country accordingly so that a particular group of people will not be aggrieved. And when people are aggrieved, for instance, when the Niger Delta people were aggrieved, you saw what started happening in Niger Delta. The kidnappings, the blowing up of the oil facilities and all that. When a group of people becomes aggrieved, they can act in a manner that you cannot control. And when it's not controlled, it can lead to something else that will even lead to what we have tempted as in the issues that regards the insecurity. Right. These are what my party we are looking at. To make sure that we balance all the regions of Nigeria and have an all-inclusive government. What the political party APC has done is only persuasive on the members of the National Assembly. It is not binding on them. The National Assembly is a body governed and saddled by the Constitution to do what they need to do. They derive their power from the grown-up, from the Constitution. Right, so and they have within themselves the rules that governs the National Assembly. So what we have done in the party, what the party has done, is to say it would be nice if these are done. And we are urging our party members to go there to the National Assembly and see how you can get this done the way we have stated it. Because if it is done that way, it will help us to sustain and build a credible political party. But it's not binding, like I said. All right,
that's fair enough. We've run out of time now. So
let me just say that what APC has tried to do in trying to have an input or possibly decide the outcome of the National Assembly leadership positions, I think it's okay. But the way and manner they have gone about it is not quite good. It appears like a position to me. And in the House of Reps particularly, APC does not command the majority, not even a simple majority. In a situation like that, you need to really go into alliance. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't just drop it as a give it or take it, because if the opposition come together, they are more than 183, and you don't number up to that. So if they have a consensus amongst them, they will take the speakership and even the deputy. You need to negotiate, seeing that you don't have the commanding height, and even in the Senate, it may also not be so rosy, because the margin of lead there is also small. It's about 54 or something like that. The margin of lead of the PDP, of the APC, is slim. You also need understanding, because even within the APC ranks, amongst the senators and senators-elect, you have people who are aggrieved, that are ready to join even the opposition senators-elect, to reproduce what happened under the Saraki Ekweremadu era. So on the whole, I think they need to tread softly, go under and negotiate. There is a groundswell of opposition against Ababio at the moment, and it's because he appears he's been imposed on everybody. You see, all I want is a competent National Assembly leadership. The Lawan presidency of the Senate, he became tainted because of one statement he made that, look, whatever the president brings here is good for us, and we get approval. And that was how Lawan approved, even in retrospect, loan, internal and external, totaling about 70 trillion for Buhari. Lawan presided over it.
All right.
So now you don't want that kind of National Assembly.
Dr. Lo, I'm so sorry to cut you short there. We've run out of
It's okay.
time now.
It's okay. I think the points are made.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming, Mr. Festus Osfume. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Also.
Thank you.
All right, that's all we can take on the program today. Do join us tomorrow and 2 p.m. 3:30 p.m. across weekdays. The Polity reaches you live from Abuja. Have a nice day. See you tomorrow. I am Amadine Ogbewe. Bye for now.